running cross country through the summer and then through the fall and the school year. So it's really funny. Normally I'm strength based, but it looks like for the next little bit, I'm also going to have a focus on endurance athletes. Now, I'm not the running coach, but I am the strength, flexibility, and mobility coach. And then for my son, I'm also obviously going to be handling nutrition. So the more information I can glean from the resources I have, the better for both me and my clients. So let's talk a little bit about strength training and its relationship to endurance athletes, in this case, runners. Strength training is really important for two reasons, two major reasons. The first and most important to me, especially looking at it from, a mom's standpoint, is injury prevention. We see so many injuries in runners, and the problem is not the running. Running is perfectly fine. The problem is it contributes to overuse. If you think about how many steps a distance runner takes, it is the same repetitive motion over and over and over again. And so when we are training them, we have to keep this in mind and make sure that the strength training exercises we're giving them are strengthening muscles that will be weaker and also strengthening movement patterns they don't usually do. It would be dumb of me as a strength and conditioning coach to slap a weighted vest on a runner and say, okay, for your strength today, you're going to run a mile in a weighted vest. That contributes to the problem of overuse. We also need to make sure they're mobile and they're flexible in all of these muscles and in the soft tissues around joints that they're going to be using over and over again. The second thing that it helps with is, we're going to call it movement economy, we're going to call it muscular efficiency. It's making sure that the body weight they're carrying is helping with their movement. Distance runners need to be light. There's no question about it. The more weight they're carrying, the harder their job is. So we want to make sure that whatever weight they are carrying is contributing to their goal of moving their body said distance. So how do we train that as strength and conditioning coaches? Well, we train that with strength training. A lot of times when we talk about endurance athletes, we think about muscular endurance, right? And that's the low load, high rep strength scheme. Okay, that's when we're looking at like 15 reps or up to 30 reps, and it's really light and it gives them the burn that people want so badly. Okay, that's not what they need. Again, that's what they get. They are doing that low load, high rep every time they go out for a run. That's not what their body's lacking. What we also want to make sure we don't do is contribute to the weight they're carrying by piling on more either fat or muscle. Okay? For a lot of us in the strength and conditioning world, we're like, ooh, muscle, we want it all. For a distance or endurance athlete, they don't. It's heavy. Carrying around muscle is heavy. So what do we want to do? We want to take the muscle that they currently have and we want to make it stronger and we want to make it more powerful. How do we do that? We do that with strength rep schemes. Okay, so we are looking at high load, okay, between 3 and 6 reps, okay, for 1 to 3 sets. And we're looking at doing it 2, maybe 3 times a week. What else do we want to train? We want to train the core. So for anyone who's ever taking a running class, you learn very quickly, or if you've ever been a distance athlete, I ran cross country and I've also taken quite a few running classes. I've done aerobic capacity with Chris Hinshaw. So this world is not foreign to me. It's not my favorite way to work out, but I sure have done it. Anyway, so what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's a lot of power behind those movements. We want to include some plyometrics. We want to include that core because when runners run, they're at an angle, a slight angle, okay? And they're going to have their hips underneath the core. There's a lot of stress going through the core of the body and especially the lower back. When I go back to running, and there are certain times of year where I will run, I'm a fair weather runner. I'll admit it, I'll own it. But when I start running again, the thing that gets sore on me isn't my legs. My legs are pretty meaty and beastie. They can take a beating. It's actually my lower back. Not like how this has become a body. Anyway, it's like my lower back. Okay. And so they have to be able to hold themselves up. So what we need to train is the core as well. It's not just legs. It's also the core. So we do strength training, high load strength training for the legs. And then we work on stability through the core and stability through power output. So we're using a lot of dynamic workouts, a lot of dynamic movements to help them stabilize through power output, which is what's happening when they're running. And especially if they're going for an uphill or if they're sprinting towards the end, they need the ability to stabilize the core with those kinds of forces on the body. So, does strength training have a place for endurance athletes? 100% it does. What does it look like? Different than a lot of people think.